Hi, this is Bridget from Speech Therapy Talk, and this video is going to be about how I get organized at the start of a school year or when I start seeing a new client. So the very first thing I do is every kiddo gets a folder, and the very first thing that goes in the folder is, actually this doesn't go in the folder, but this is what I do when a child starts, is this notification of services. So this is now available on the Speech Therapy Talk membership, or if you're not a member, you can use something similar. But I think it's really important to send the parents home something so they know what's going on. So they're in the loop and we start building that trusting relationship. So it goes through type of service, make sure you have what you're working on, how often you're seeing the kid, where you're seeing the child, how progress monitoring is going, and then on the membership you can just open this in Google, adjust it how you need to, and then just email it off to the parents. So this I recommend doing right away. The second one, this one I just started doing for many reasons, but the student overview sheet. So I do use an EMR, which has all the information that I need, but sometimes I just don't have access to the computer. I don't have access. Sometimes I get locked out. One day I was completely locked out of my EMR. So I really like to have all the parent information written down somewhere. So this just goes through the name of the parents, their phone numbers and emails. I think that is literally the most important. And then maybe jot down the goals very briefly, kind of what we're working on. And then their IEP minutes or whatever, their re-eval date and things like that, and any kind of notes. I take this, it takes me just a couple minutes, but it has been proven to be invaluable when I needed a parent's phone number in a pinch. So I throw that in. Done. The next thing I do at the beginning of each school year, I do go into schools, or when I start a new client, I do this goal sheet. So I think it's really important that students write down their goals. And if they're not old enough to write down their goals, we discuss it and I write it down. Maybe they just trace out the letters, maybe they draw, but they need to be aware of what they're working on. So this is one of the sheet I have. If you don't have something like this, if you're not a member, you can just use something like this, but it goes through, the child writes down what their goals are, what they're great at. I think we skip over this a lot. We always talk about what they need to work on, but we forget to tell them all the things that they're doing great. So I love to do that, so they can write down what they're great at, and then what they need to work on, and anything that they're excited to learn about. I sometimes make a copy, send this home with the parents, just give it to the parents, or I just throw it in their folder. And then we can always come back to this, and it's kind of fun for them to see a year later, how they're doing. Now this is my new thing that I started just a couple months ago. So long story short, about 10 years ago, and I think not conspiracy theory, it really coincided with apps, with third-party apps on all of our smartphones. But all of a sudden I was bombarded that taking data was a problem I had. I didn't know I had this problem, but a lot of companies, a lot of emails and posts and things like that were telling me that taking data was a problem and that I needed to solve this problem by digitizing it, that I needed to find some app, some system, something that I needed to take data, and then all my speech therapy problems would disappear. But it turns out it was probably never really a problem. So I have just been spending the last 10 years trying to find the perfect optimized way to take data. And I've tried literally every app, Google Drive, different systems to take this seamless data, until about maybe 2 to 3 months ago, I realized I don't think I have trouble taking data. I don't think data was ever trouble for me. So back in grad school, I would just have a scrap piece of paper. I did a plus if they got it right, I did a minus if they got it wrong, and I circled it if they got it right with a Q. And that was it. And it turns out that is the easiest way to do it. So instead of companies creating this problem for me and then trying to fix the problem I never had, I just went back to, I don't think this was ever a problem. So I have my new data tracking sheets where you can write in goals, and then you can just write in the date. Maybe like if you're working on S, vocab, just one word. You have 10 boxes where you can do your plus, minus with a circle, and then you can write in your percentage. So what I do is I pull this out. So I pick out my data tracking form. On the membership, there's like 3 different options. I pick which one works for that child, throw it in their folder. When it's a day I'm taking data, I take it out. As we're playing, I make a few marks. put it aside, done. At the end of the day or at the end of the session while we're cleaning up, I just bring up their EMR, their electronic medical record, transfer the percentages, maybe make a note or two that was there, and I'm done. And it wasn't a problem. And I didn't need to log into an app, and I didn't need to forget passwords, and something didn't load, and the screens, and the kids getting distracted by the screens, and why are you looking at that phone? What are you tapping on that phone? I just jot down very authentically, just have a piece of paper on my table, just make a couple notes, done, transfer it, done, and all of a sudden, guys, data is not a problem. So if you want to check all this out, you can head over to Speech Therapy Talk membership. If you're a member, you can start downloading and creating your folders now. If you're not a member, please check it out, or you can just create something similar. All right, thanks. Have a good day.